Right, we're on a Tuesday. My partner's Helen's car, the Corsa, has been in for its MOT today. Now, I would have done the bit dropping it off and whatever, but I've had such a lot going on. There's bad news. The Corsa has failed on its MOT. It's going to require a lot of money spending to get it right on the road, and now we're in a situation where we're going to try and work out what the possible option is going to be. Kind of figured this was on the cards, but at the same time, can I say I didn't know it was coming? I don't know. There's a few things on the course that don't quite add up. I'm going to discuss those in a moment. Well, at some stage during this video. And I'll explain the reasons when we come to certain decisions along this process.
The next day.
Helen's Vauxhall Corsa was in for its MOT yesterday, and it's failed on welding and certain areas of concern which are of a safety nature. It's a bit gutting really, because the car itself is a brilliant car. It has been mechanically reliable to a certain degree, and it's also been my partner's proper first car, if you will. So it is gutting. We were expecting to get a few more years out of it, which sadly we're not. But this is a risk you run when you have a vehicle older, than 10 years, especially one where it's prone to the elements, shall we say. So what it's failed on is majority of it welding, if I'm honest. The driver's side front inner arch at the back, water's got in behind the plastic covers and it's rotted away the metal. Not a big job, it just needs a couple of plates and maybe a bit of structural integrity. Let me get my teeth in on it. Also as well, the sills, because it's got bottom moldings or plastics, if you will, that can hide a world of sins, especially if the elements are getting in behind the plastics. So obviously over time that's going to cause weathering and eat away at the metal as well. So that area would have been needed to do. There is a bit of weeping from the servo area. I believe there was a rubber bung that goes into the servo onto the brake line, which has perished. So that would need replacing, maybe a brake line replacing, I'm not too sure. And then the bit that's really kind of sealed the deal is the spring plating and around the rear part of the chassis of the car where it's needed. It's like the upper seating plate, if you will, for the rear springs. That's pretty much rotted and whatever. So the rear springs are not sat properly and obviously safely. So all that considered, we've decided to cut our losses with the vehicle. So me and my partner are currently on the lookout for another vehicle. She has got a few options. We are going to be looking at a few cars this evening. I might take you and show you, or I might keep this a surprise and show you what, she ends up getting. So yeah, a bit of a disappointing story. The car itself is a beautiful car. If you're wondering what we're going to do with the car, there's two options. We can sell it as spares and repairs. I don't really want to break the car and sell it for parts individually, because even though there's more money in the parts, end of the day, somebody else who maybe has the money, time, effort, and maybe more the enthusiasm than maybe with this. What I mean by enthusiasm is, they might actually want to, what do you call it, refurb the car, rebuild the car, to maybe for whatever track or so on and such forth. I'm not going to lie, it's a thought that I've considered, maybe rebuilding it, turning it into a bit of a track toy or something like that. But yeah, we'll see what we do. But the main priority of the plan is we're going to get my partner a new car, or a newer car. And yeah, something different, something well, something kind of expected. And I kind of knew, I had a gut feeling, I didn't believe it would pass, because there was a few things that had me thinking, mechanically, the car is sound. The engine itself, from what I believe, is worth a bit of money. Not a lot, but the engine itself is becoming a rare engine. So anybody who has a similar engine would probably jump at the chance of buying that as a replacement. In terms of the mileage the car's done, I believe it's 60 odd thousand miles for a 2000, a 2000 Corsa. So yeah. So what sort of cars is she looking for? Well, I've advised her to get something VAG. Now, I know there's an air of contention over earlier VAG cars, obviously because of the whole Dieselgate scandal and stuff like that. But if the truth should be told, and this is my opinion on it, is regardless of what the scandal was over in the US and compared to maybe what it may have been concerning the UK, if the truth to be told, you're still saving money, even with today's fuel prices. So regardless of what the climate input is and stuff like that, end of the day, the climate isn't going to save your bank balance, is it? Especially with people going over to electric cars, and it's proving to be more costly going to electric cars than it is sticking with diesel and some petrol cars. So yeah, but in terms of Helen's car, I've advised, something like a Volkswagen Golf, a Polo, or even Seat Leon, Seats, Leons, Ibizas, Skodas. Skodas are a good option as well. They're all part of the VAG family, so they're great options. Other options as well, maybe some smaller sort of Korean, some Japanese cars as well. I don't mean to infuriate the haters, but I do not recommend anything PSA, so Peugeot, Citroen, and now Vauxhall Opel. I mean, earlier Vauxhalls, so from 2000 to maybe 2016, I would recommend getting, but finding a decent one is quite difficult because Vauxhall and Ford especially jumped on the bandwagon from about 2010 they started doing it, not so much 2014, but they just built cars to sell, and they were forever coming back for warranty jobs or another. I know there's probably a few Ford and Vauxhall owners out there going, I bought a Vauxhall or a Ford around 2010 and I still got it and it never missed a beat. You do get some well-built cars, but I guarantee, if we're talking percentages, about 70% of those vehicles would be in and out of garages as soon as they leave the forecourt. So It's just from experience, 20 years of experience, I've known this to be true. But anyway, I'm digressing here. So those are the options she's had to look at. What has she been looking at? Volkswagen. So anything like Polo or a Golf, Skoda, Fabia. Ibithas and Leons have been quite rare. They've become quite popular recently, which is quite bizarre because they're on the VAG format. But end of the day, they are really quite solid cars. I personally don't like the cosmetic design of them, but end of the day, if you're not really into cosmetics and aesthetics of the car, then again, definitely a consideration. Obviously, an Audi, an A3 would have been ideal as well because then it's just a familiar platform to me. So anything that needed doing on it or stuff like that, I'm familiar with that platform. But she likes the Golfs, likes the Volkswagen Golfs. She has been looking at quite a few. However, the price, I mean, the value of especially some Volkswagens, so some Golfs and some Audis, they hold the value very well. They don't really depreciate as much, especially when they're over 10 years old. But yeah, there are options. I mean, she's looked at a few Mitsubishis. She's looked at like Kias and Hyundai, or Hyundai, as I believe that's pronounced. There's a lot of people that pronounce it Hyundai, but it's actually Hyundai. And I'm probably even getting that wrong. So she's looked at those options. What she's decided on, I don't know. She's keeping her cards close to her chest. Like I said, we're going to see a car tonight. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I'm just the driver, so I'm just going to take her there and have a look around and have a good look myself and see what I think of it. So, what does this mean for further car content? Obviously, whatever new car she gets, I'm going to need to understand it and maybe see how I can maybe, understand the car itself. So, see if there's any possible defects that we need to look out for, any possible repairs, check its history and stuff like that. Obviously, I will be doing a history check on the vehicle as well, so like a HPI and whatever, to make sure that it's kosher and whatever. In terms of damaged cars, would we pick a car that's maybe been an insurance write-off? We would consider a Cat D or a Cat N. The reason why I say that is my car's a Cat N, so it's basically cosmetic damage. Cat D is, it can be cosmetic and stuff like that, but end of the day, so long as it's not structural, it's non-structural and stuff like that, which would normally be classed as a Class S. It would be a consideration. So we have options. We are looking, and we're going to see what's out there. The challenge we have is the fact that it has to be an automatic. It has to be a small car. If it's a diesel, maybe something like a 1.4 or a 1.5 diesel. Because my partner's not been driving that long and she wants to keep her insurance down. There is a consideration to get a 1.9 but like a base model 1.9 automatic. So then at least, and again, the insurance is all right, a little bit more, but it's in that middle ground area. Those are the options anyway with that. Obviously, clearly has to have 4 wheels. Has to be newer than what she's got now. The mileage, she wants the mileage to be under 100,000 miles. Now, if she gets a diesel, it doesn't really matter if it's 100,000 miles because as far as the diesel concerned, the engine's just barely broken in. So, it'll be good for maybe another 200,000 miles. Petrol, it has to be literally, in an ideal world, 50,000 miles would be the limit. Find anything less than that would be an absolute blessing. But I believe that finding a petrol automatic, preferably either a 1.4 or a 1.6, it's the middle area, I think. But my personal preference for it is she gets a diesel, and it's either a 1.5 if she gets a small car, or it's a 1.9 if she gets like a hatchback or something like that. A 1.9 or a 1.8. I know Fords did 1.8, but they're not very good diesels. Economically, they're great, but in terms of practicality and durability, for some reason, it's really weird. They're the contradiction to the diesel rule, if you will. It's like driving a bag of spanners, but then when you get a German diesel, it's like just a rattly bag of nuts. It's a very strange. I know that's a strange analogy, but you know, a Ford or a Peugeot Citroen diesel, especially an old one over 100,000 miles, is like it's like rattling a bag of spanners. But if you get a VAG or even a German diesel, you know, especially one that's been looked after, it's like just a little bag of bolts. You know, there's different tone, it's a little smoother, and it runs better. That's what the analogy is about. So, yeah, those are the options. We will let you know what we find out.
2 days later.
So, Thursday, we'd seen a Volkswagen Golf for sale in Accrington. That evening, we'd gone to have a look at the vehicle, and just to be sure of where we're going, we were following Google Maps, or sat-nav at least. Anyway, I don't know if people are familiar with Accrington, but in the main roundabout under there, I think it's a viaduct type thing, there is a road that goes into the town centre. As you turn onto that road, there is a speed bump, or I would class as basically a small mountain. And what had happened was it's caught the bolt at the bottom of the support bars and under the splitter, and it's literally snapped the actual rod off and the front of the splitter itself, or the splitter extensions. In doing so, it's bent the rods, and I believe it may have pushed the rods back to maybe do some damage behind the bumper. I don't know. I'm going to be investigating that, and there'll be more news on that in the future J Talks Cars. But to say the least, it was a little bit frustrating to get a bit of damage on my car. Yeah, I mean, these things are going to happen. I wasn't fully aware of the extent of the damage until the following day. However, obviously I had to remove the bars off because one was still dangling off the car and not fixed to the front splitter, and the other one had completely been pulled off, ripped off completely. So yeah, a little bit disappointed, but I suppose these things happen when you modify your car.
The next day.
So everything looks normal and everything, but then if you look at the bumper, it's literally ripped the corners off, and obviously I've had to take the rods off which were attached, and they've ended up getting damaged in the process. Luckily though, these are quite firm on here, so they're not going anywhere anytime soon, which I suppose is a blessing. That's a little more damaged, but I'll figure that out. And that's the damage to the rod pins, properly bent, absolutely smashed. where the plastic is on it. Can you focus? And it's ripped it clean off. Literally from clipping the bottoms and ripped them out. So I'm gonna need to replace them. I mean, I'm debating whether they were really necessary in the first place, but I don't know how much force of air goes on that front, so at the time I felt they were necessary, but we'll figure it out. Okay, it's Friday today. It's been a bit of a stressful week this week trying to find a car because we're looking for a specific type of car for my partner, and as it's basically transpired, such a vehicle does exist, but it's like almost like a unicorn at the minute. We went to view a car last night. Mechanically it was sound, it was brilliant. It had what we wanted, which was a diesel engine but automatic. But then we test drove it, and then we got back and we just checked over the bodywork again. There were a few, shall we say, age related wear and tear issues on it, which I kind of expected. But then there were some really bad bodywork damage, which we hadn't really initially noticed, because when we went to view the car was a little bit shady anyway. So I checked around the bodywork and it wasn't just scratches, there were absolute gouges in the bodywork. So needless to say, we decided against getting that one. We have looked at a few other options. We're going to go tonight. Today's going to be quite a stressful day because we've got to go over to where we're going to view the car, which is quite a distance. And if we don't buy the car, we're going to have to resume the search next week. If not, if we do end up buying the car, then I will show you in a future clip. Either way, it's been quite an adventure this week. It's not a car for me, it's a car for my partner. If you haven't already heard about earlier in the content, but yeah, it's quite stressful finding a car nowadays.
The next day.
Okay, so this is Helen's new car. I had to go down the Audi route, and this is absolutely superb. Basically, same colour as mine, similar gearbox, just up to date and everything in terms of the little bits and pieces. There are a few imperfections, but you can see it's absolutely superb.
Happiness, is it truly meant to last forever? I never knew my dreams could come true till you walked into my life. Like wings need the wind, you lift me higher. Like the sun needs its stars, you make my world shine bright. Like a song needs a soul to sing it louder. You are
yeah, we've definitely picked a good one here. There is a few issues like the heater and whatever. We've just fixed a few little gremlins like bulbs and stuff, but yeah, it's a fantastic car. It's first generation DSG on it. Amazing job. You're happy?
Absolutely.
Very happy.
2 days later.
There goes the Corsa. End of an era. But yeah.
A few moments later.
So the Corsa's gone to a new home. I'm now on with checking my car. So just topping up the water. Make sure the car is cooling nicely. So about halfway is usually where I get it to. And then we also top this up as well, because I've just put some concentrate in there. As you can probably see, it's quite a bit. So I usually tend to put it right up to the top. And that's that done. That's all done. And then let's check the oil. And there's plenty of oil in the engine, so that's good. So we now have 2 blue Audis in the fleet, one newer, which is a fantastic little car. I'll be doing a particular JTC on that, and then I've just washed mine up, which will be dirty. It'll be a wasted exercise, but either way, we've got a good fleet now. All in all, it's been a stressful 2 weeks. First Helen's car failing its MOT, then finding another car, damaging my car, maintaining my car, and yeah, selling a car, or at least it was as good as scrapped, because the welding cost more than what the car was worth. So yeah, disappointing. We've had to let her go, but we've got a decent replacement, so all well ends well. Right, I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight. I mean, I presume a lot of you already know this in terms of your winter prep. I've had to go and get a few bits just to make sure I've got everything. I've done my fluid checks and stuff like that, so my water, my washers, and also, you know, my oils and what else needed. Obviously, as well, when you're doing your checks, you check your tyres. Obviously, we know that the minimum depth is 1.6 mil. But sometimes I normally change my tyres literally at the beginning of every winter. The ideal situation usually is you have a set of winter wheels and you have a set of summer wheels. Well, if you go back in previous content that I've done, we've come to learn that some wheels, you know, they get tired or they get damaged over time, and they're no longer fit for purpose. So what I'm doing now is, or having to do, is use the same set of alloys all the year through. Obviously, I'm just going to have to change the tyres. So I'm going to be doing that probably maybe next month. We're in November now, so it's just obviously coming towards the tail end of autumn. The cold's now starting to set in, and obviously, you know, the conditions will be deteriorating, you know, until obviously spring. So what I've done is I've got a few little bits that I need. Most of it's common sense, so a lot of it you guys will probably already know. But in terms of like what I need, or
me as a driver or what I tend to use, I tend to go through this process every year, almost religiously, but it does the job. Obviously, these are some of the things that you need, really. Other bits that I tend to have as well, I always keep a blanket in the car handy, high-vis jackets, backup sets of bulbs. I also have my washer fluid because obviously as there's more salt and everything getting put down as it gets colder, obviously you're going to need to keep washing your windows, keep your windows as clear as possible. So I always keep another full bottle of washer fluid in the car handy. Also, I have exterior moisture cloths, interior moisture cloths. Some of you may think, well, that's a bit of an overkill, but in my experience of driving old cars, and trust me, I've driven some absolute clapped out bangers in the past, I've just always keep a kit handy in the car. My partner tends to give me grief because sometimes she feels it's maybe a little bit unnecessary, even during the summer months. But trust me, having an emergency like storage or an emergency kit in the car, there'll be days where you will be glad you've got it. And the best idea about driving in the colder months is always being prepared without actively kind of expecting the worst. Obviously, you can, on a really cold day, it could be nice and clear, but maybe a bit icy. And then you're going somewhere maybe about 50 miles up, down the road, up the hills or whatever, and you could encounter different conditions which could compromise your journey and stuff like that. So I always tend to be very prepared for whatever eventuality. Sometimes, I get a little bit fed up of it, but I'm always relieved when such a situation should present itself. I have what I need to help me in that situation. Obviously, with your spare tyres, always make sure that there's maximum tread, plenty of tread. These are just general common sense stuff. So, again, a lot of you probably watching this is probably thinking, well, yeah, I know, why are you telling me this? But end of the day, another voice adding to maybe remind you what you might need or what you might have to use is always valuable in this world. And then obviously situations where should you end up be stuck in your car somewhere, again, why I have a blanket, why I have high-vis jackets, why I have, de-icers and stuff like that. Some people say you need to keep a jerry can in your car handy. Not always the case. Life is more manageable in the diesel. And I'm sorry I keep going back to this, but diesels, for the fuel economy, they go further. So should you get into a situation, it actually, you buy yourself maybe an extra couple of hours in the worst case scenario. In a petrol car, you're very limited. And if you sat there having your car on and off running, I mean, I know a lot of this new stop-start technology helps with that. But then electric cars, if you sit there with your heaters on and you're in a compromised situation, well, the battery isn't going to last very long. So you're in a worse situation than you started with. So in terms of situations, circumstances, worst case scenarios, a diesel car is a better vehicle, whether it be a 4x4, whether it be a standard car. It always has a tendency to last longer, and it's great for any eventuality. It's just general common sense things, but at the same time, making sure you have what you need, what is necessary. I always take maybe a few extra bits should I go on a long distance journey and the weather conditions are a bit questionable, but it's a journey that I have to make. I always have, again, an emergency sort of pack or plan should the worst happen. I mean, a lot of preparation for winter is common sense. Summer, it's not so much of a worry. Obviously, you keep on top of your fluids, make sure your cooling systems are always good. But we're not talking about summer, we're talking about winter. We're now in the latter end of autumn or fall, as our folks over the pond would say. And yeah, just keeping on top, keep planned, keep prepared. That's what always works.
Because on Saturday,
Yeah.
because we're not going to be doing anything much, I'm going to wash her.
Yeah.
I'm going to... Oh my God.
Are you looking for a site where you can show off your pride and joy amongst a group of other fellow car enthusiasts? Well, I've discovered recently Car Fans. Now, Car Fans is literally a social media site for car owners and car enthusiasts. On there you can share pictures of your car's specs. You can even go to see when the next car meet's going to be, and you can even speak to some of the professionals in the trade that can perhaps help you to improve your car. I've stumbled across this, and I have to say I'm absolutely loving what they're doing. This is something totally unique, and it's something that, in my opinion, the car scene has needed for a while. A lot of the past there's been car forums where you just kind of reply to somebody putting up something in a certain topic list. This is it's where you can just go real time, and you'll speak to people who perhaps know more than you, or perhaps may rely on your knowledge of certain cars, certain mods, certain modifications, engineering, mechanicking, bits and pieces like that. So this is a fantastic site to check out. I would recommend visiting carfans.com, get yourself registered. It's literally your car social media site that you need to be on, and trust me, this is a fantastic place to be. You're in a world where other people appreciate the same love that you do. It's going to be absolutely superb, and I would highly recommend you do that. Visit carfanstoday.com and join a community of like-minded car enthusiasts sharing their experiences, knowledge and passion of their love for motoring.